Okay, it seems we're live. So in this video I am actually coding a little bit of extension stuff for the KiCad user interface because I'm very unhappy with the KiCad user interface. I think it's kind of getting in the way of my workflow. And one particular thing that I wanted to add to the user interface is something that looks like this. Let's see. We could actually start KiCad with this. So this is a little schematic that I'm going to be explaining in one of the next videos. This is going to be a small vector network analyzer. I guess you could call it that way, but it's basically a phase and magnitude meter based on the AD8302. But this is not the subject of this video. The subject of this video is the library editor. And in the library editor, I prefer to structure the components such that I have a component library that I use inside the project. And in this component library, I have the components that are used in the schematic. And each component has a set of fields which point to the manufacturer part number and a few other things. Now, in the default KiCad interface, editing the fields is really hard. Like you have to, it's really time consuming and very inefficient. So you have to click here and then you have to go like click on the field and then it adds those. This is really stupid. It adds fields that are defined in your default field somewhere else, and this is not really a field of the component until you put a value in there. So this is an interface I don't really like. So I have to click on this field, and I have to click on this, and I have to enter the value, and I have to enter the field name here, and everything has to be done manually, and I have to click OK, and that just takes too much time. So this is not the way I want to do it. So I created this little pane here. This is a panel which I can actually dock anywhere I want. And this contains a few of the default fields that I would like to set for every single component that I have in my library. And the latest thing I did was add this part ID number, because I think that KiCad does a little weird thing with the part with the value field, which they also use as a part ID in the library. So the value field of the component is actually also used as an ID to identify the component in the library, which is a little bit inconvenient. I think that for components like this, like I have a capacitor, this 100 picofarads. Oh, this is something weird. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna fix this. So this is work in progress. So I mean, like the fact that it just marked those components as modified, that is clearly wrong. But anyway, so if I have a capacitor which is 100 picofarads, I don't want to have that as the value. I don't want to have the full string here as a value. So I've been thinking how to solve that. I'm probably gonna solve it with something like a display formatter that basically if I enter the value with like one of those A characters and then maybe like let me show you. I don't, what's it called, like a little thing that looks like this, I guess. Yeah. So that could represent a space, because you cannot put spaces in the library IDs, but you can put characters that you can then filter out in the when the field goes into the schematic. So you can actually like instead of having dashes there, I could have spaces there, and I could format the field and basically discard the cap part and discard the footprint part and make it a little bit more concise. But for now, I prefer to add a new field which is called comment, which is going to be automatically set as visible, and the part ID is going to be set as invisible for all of the components that I'm going to be creating using my wizard. And then KiCad can actually auto-place this comment field, and that would represent the value of the component. So the way I'm doing this is I downloaded the KiCad source code, and KiCad uses VX Form Builder to modify the layout, and all of the layout is actually stored in this FBP files that are both in the directory called dialogues and also in the directory called widgets. Now, in the directory called dialogues, KiCad puts all of the little dialogues that it displays in the application, and in the directory called widgets, it puts the components that don't have a frame. So since this panel does not have a frame, as a dialog box, it's basically a widget. So this panel is subclassed from a VX panel class instead of VX dialog. The way that I design this thing is that I go to a VX form builder, and I have this part open, and in VX form builder I can place all the components here, and I can name them appropriately. Like this is a part ID, text part ID part, and this is a grid, and a few spacers and sizers, and sizers are not really that intuitive when you first start working with them. But after a while I actually got it working, and I think I got something that starts to resemble something that I want to see. Basically, when I start entering text into this part ID field, it fires an event called onPartIDChange, and that event eventually ends up in the code. Now, this dialog, the way that VX Form Builder works is that it generates C code, which you can then subclass. So it generates a base class, and then you can subclass this class, and you can assign you can override the on event callbacks, and in those callbacks you can put your own code. So you don't have to modify this generated code. This becomes your base class for your custom component or your custom panel. So if we go here, I have the pane base. This one is the generated code, and the part properties pane is my own code, which I have subclassed or derived from the part properties pane base. And here I override all the methods for the events that I've defined in the VX form builder. So when this thing is created, now the way to add a new pane to KiCad is through this really huge class called libEditFrame. So libEditFrame has all of the fields here. Let's see where the part properties. So part properties pane, I've put it in the libEditFrame as a member of libEditFrame, and called it mprops pane, and then I can also in the main file called libEditFrame CPP, I actually create this props pane here, and also I added to the AOE manager add pane, and this basically makes the component as a dockable pane in the window. So here I specify the dock parameter, and I remove the close button. So basically just like on the component tree, which is already in KiCad, which is this one, which is very useful. But this becomes a separate pane that can be docked to any part of the window. And it has all of this values here, and I can easily edit all the fields. So this is really useful for me because I don't want to click on the dialog and open this big table and then click several more times to modify a field. I can just go here and I can just modify the field here. So if we let's see if this actually works. I'm not sure if I bound all of the things here, so I think it might not actually work, but we can try it out. Yes, it actually does work. So the latest thing I've been doing here is I was trying to bind this part ID to make sure that the ID is actually changed when you change the value here, and I actually got it working finally. But it wasn't that easy because when you change the name, or they call it the value of the component, but it's actually the part ID, and it's actually the name of the component in the library, which is really confusing. I think they should have a separate comment field, which is the value of the component, and use this and call this the thing that's called value right now should actually be called like a part ID or something similar to that. So this was a bit confusing here, exactly how they did that, but eventually I actually moved let's see, update field, I guess. No, what was that called? What did I call this thing? Let's see, part properties. Let's see, I called it, I think, update field value. Update field value is located update field. Yes, update field value. So this is copied from function that actually is residing in another file called lib field, I guess. Yeah. So in here, that code was originally here, where I call update field value now, this is really funny because they have one huge class which is called like libEditFrame, and it has those like hundreds of methods that are spread all over the place. They're spread over all of these files that you have in this code repository, which is horrible. I mean, that really needs refactoring, and I hope they're going to refactor this so that this actually becomes a manageable hierarchy of objects instead of just one huge object which has all the functionality in it. And they don't even like they mix all of this like GUI stuff and the logic stuff. But yeah, at least it's clean enough to be able to work with it. It's not the cleanest code base, but it's clean enough to be able to work with it, and it's not that. It doesn't really get that in the way when you work with it. It doesn't you don't have to pull your hair most of the time trying to figure out how it works. You just have to search all of these files for the right method that is called in your class. So originally this was like this edit field method. It's called when you press the E key in the library editor. So it pops up this edit field dialog. So I now have compiled this code base with debug options, so I get those assertion failures every now and then, but this is okay. I can just click continue and it will just continue. In the release version, it doesn't include the assertions, so you don't actually see those dialogues, even though assertions might be happening in the background. Well, they're actually commented, like they're compiled out, because usually you just have the assertion as a preprocessor macro that just doesn't get included in the release builds. But anyway, so this edit field is called when you press the E key, and what it does is it pops up the dialog lib edit one field, and after you're done, so this is dialog lib edit one field, right? So when you're done and you click OK, it goes here. It checks that you click OK, and then it gets the text of the field. And then it update. Then I call this method that I've just created, which is called update field value. Let's see. I moved the code here so that I could actually call it from my panel as well. Because I don't want to duplicate this stuff. This is how the changing of the value field, which is also the ID field, is actually done. So it starts by checking if you're changing the value field. If you're changing the value field, it actually has to rename the component in the library, and then it has to reload the component and has to update all this. All the UI to reflect your change. So it actually deletes the old component, creates a new component as a copy of the component that you're currently working on, and it gives it the new name that you have entered as the value field. Let's see. So what we're doing right now is we're calling this method every time the text changes in that field. Let's go and cancel this. So every time we change the text in this field, we're actually calling that method, and this is really slow. So we don't want to do that. I'm going to change this to only perhaps call the method when you either lose focus, so you change the field, or you press enter. So we're going to go back to the form builder, and I'm going to try adding, I think, on kill focus maybe, on part ID kill focus, and on enter, on part ID enter. Where is that? Where is the enter? On text enter right there. On part ID text enter. So I'm going to experiment with this. I'm not really used to working with VX widgets. This is really new for me, so I'm just discovering it as I go. Most of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory, so like you just create those callbacks and then you like override them in your own class. So we're gonna go back here and we're gonna just save this, and we're gonna go and generate the code. And then I'm gonna go to the part properties base, and I'm gonna copy the new fields. So let's see, part ID kill focus and part ID text enter, and we're gonna copy them to our own class, and we're gonna go ahead and oh no, that's and we're gonna go ahead and just delete the duplicate there, and we're gonna override this, and we're gonna override this as well, and we're gonna copy these two lines and go to the main on part, yeah, there we go, the part ID change, and we're gonna paste them here, and we're gonna go like this. We're gonna delete those. We're gonna go part properties pane, and we're gonna go here, and we're gonna just create a little bit of code in there. Probably I'm gonna use the same code that I used up here. Let's see, command and focus event. So I can't really assign the same name to two different events because they take different arguments. So the part ID change takes VX command event, and the focus takes VX focus event. So I can't do that, but I have to instead create a utility method in the class where I put my code, so I can call it from both of the handlers. So let's go ahead and copy this code here. We're gonna go and paste it in, let's see, I want to just see if, let's see, can we reuse some of this code for the other fields? Okay. So for the value, we have to call onUpdate field value, but we can also actually call it for all the other values as well. The only thing that we're going to use that's going to be different between the different fields that you can see up here in the designer, between all these fields, the only thing that's going to be different is the field that we get from the part. So the field that we are modifying. And we're going to have to do all of this is going to be basically repeated. So we can take just this code, and we can actually take and go ahead and do like this. Let's see, update part field, and we're gonna pass the field to the part. And we're gonna pass the new values. So we're gonna do like this. Let's see, and we're gonna take text text part ID get value. So we're gonna do like this, and we're gonna copy this stuff into a utility function. So this is gonna make it for us. Part properties pane update update field value. Let's see, that would be lib field f, and we const vx string reference value like this. So we can just then do like this, and we're gonna go ahead and change this to the value of the that we got with the argument, and then we're just gonna copy this and go ahead and add it as a product method here. Let's go ahead and do this. No, I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna go here, and I'm going to use the same thing on the let's see, I'm gonna copy this. So update part field, and then we go text part ID get value, and we update the value field, which is good. And for now, we're gonna just keep that one empty. And we're gonna do the same thing for the other ones. So designator is, on designator change, this would be the reference field in the part. So it's going to be called the reference. The first four fields in KiCad, they are referenced using getField method here and an integer value. So they're fixed, which is a little bit weird, I would say, but I think that's left from the way that code base has evolved. So now they use you're able to use names for all of the remaining fields, but for the first four fields you have to use the get field and then pass it a value. So if I go to this definition of this, it's actually defined like this. So it's a reference, value, footprint, datasheet. Those are the mandatory fields, and then this is just a pile of crap here that you're not supposed to use. So you're supposed to like call find field and then pass it a string so that you find your field by a key, by a string, right? The way that fields are stored currently in this thing is actually they are stored in a list. They should be stored in a set so that you don't have to worry about duplicates in your list of fields, I guess. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna see what I can add here. Do I need to override anything else? Yes, I do have to override. I think I need to override this method. Let's see here. So I need to override this one, and I need to override refresh from npm. Refresh. Oh yeah, that's something else. So let's yank those three lines. So in Vim I press 3y. So when I press 3y, I just yanked this line, and this line. Let's see. Did I actually do that? Yeah. Now. So we go back to this thing and we paste those lines here. Yeah, we can just do like this. And then I just delete this stuff. Alright. And then I can just go back to like the end of the line and press dot, and I just repeat the last thing I did on the line, so that's really nice. And then I'm going to yank 3 of these. And I'm gonna go to here, and I'm gonna paste these, and I'm gonna delete the virtual stuff, and I'm gonna make them part properties pane, and I'm gonna do like this, delete the override, and basically we're just gonna do this thing, but we're gonna pass different field IDs to this. Let's see, this one would be designated change, that would be the reference, and this one would be this would be actually one of the custom fields. Now, so this is a little bit interesting. So if we are changing the comment, we actually have to do like this. So we have to create the field if it's not in there. So, and then we're gonna have the data sheet be one of the core fields. Right, but we're gonna create an override for the update part field here. Update field value, and we're gonna make this const vx string name. And in this one, I'm going to do it like this. No. Let's see, part properties pane, and then I'm gonna. I need to create the field if it's missing. Now, how do I do that? So usually I use the set fields method of the lib component. I think no lib part, the lib part class. I usually don't use the field creation stuff. Let's try. I wonder what that would be like. What do I need to search for? Like what can I search for to figure out how to do that? Let's try. Let's go to libedit frame and see if we have anything that's called like lib part. No, lib field, like new lib field. Let's see, lib field. This is going to return a lot of things. Let's see if we can figure out what this is, where they actually create a new field. So edit field, an update field value. Well, actually, I could look at the dialog that creates the new fields. That would be a good place to start, I guess. So legacy plugin. Do we have any edit field, generate alias info, lib field? Oh, there's like lib field. Look, there is a lib field with an underscore, and there's another one, lib field, which is called like this. Oh, this is just awesome. I wonder if it actually includes the same code. So this lib field includes this method, and the other one, let's see, lib field, and this one includes like this is a class. I get really dry in my throat when I'm talking, so I need to get some drink here. Okay, so let's see. I'm not gonna look in the lib field. I'm gonna go back to like lib entry fields, edit lib entry fields. Like this. This is something interesting. Is there a method that adds a field somewhere? Let's see. Lib entry fields in lib. Let's see. On list item deselected. Blah blah blah. What is this? Let's see. Edit spice model. So what I want to do is I want to find where this button points. This button here. So I'm gonna go and open that dialog in the form builder, and I'm gonna go ahead and see what it's. Let's see. And see where that button is bound. So edit lib entry fields in lib base. That's the dialog. And we're gonna go here and we're gonna click on this little button there. Add field button handler. Awesome. So let's find out where that is. That's in several places. Edit component, edit lib entry fields in lib. So this is the one. This is the one. Let's see. So this pushes this new field into fields buff, and then I think what it actually does later is it calls set fields. But we can actually go to the set fields method. That will be interesting. Let's see, parts properties. Parts properties is here, and then we have set fields. So this is interesting. So lib part set fields, right? So what it does is basically just deletes all the fields, and then it creates the fields. Well, that was interesting. So it just basically nukes everything. Well, is there a method called add field? Get alias names. Add alias, no. Subreference, add draw item, no. Okay. Well, fair enough then. What we could do is we could just do something like this. Update fields, we have it here. So what I could do, update field value there. What I could do is I need to somehow set the fields. So I need to somehow modify the field locally in this dialog, and then I need to set that field. I need to set all the fields. Right. So what we could do here is that if the field ID is one of the mandatory fields, then we call this method. If it's not, then we update the field locally, and we call the setFields method. Here is the setFields. And setFields just basically takes the fields array and updates all the fields. And then we have to do all this crap here, like just to synchronize everything. I have to really find out what each one of these does so that I know what I'm doing here, because I don't want to call any method unnecessarily. So parent is the libEdit frame, which is this huge class that spans the whole application. At least they didn't make the variables global. That's very good. They probably were global in the beginning, but then they moved them into this lib frame class. Okay. So I'm gonna try, and I need to figure out what the method is called. So libEdit. What was that? Was that libfield? Oh, I think it was like this. Libfield. That was the class. Can we get the ID? Set ID, get ID. Okay. If get ID. Oh shit! My battery is dying. There we go. I want to see if the YouTube stream is still running. Is the YouTube stream running? Yes, good. Okay. Let's just remove that so we don't see it through my awesome transparent terminal. Okay. So I'm gonna set this. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna just try this. If fGetID is less than less than mandatory. So not equal, but less. And otherwise, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make this. We're gonna make our storage of the fields a set instead of a list, because it makes more sense, I guess. Can we easily convert a set to a list? Let's see. Let's see if we can easily convert a set to std vector. Because I don't want to iterate through it. I just want to go like, oh yeah, something like this. You need to use back inserter. That's cool. So this is what we're going to do. Let's see. So we can just rename this into a set, and then we're gonna have to change everything where we're using this set. So fields, so this would be dx equals 0, and this would be an iterator instead of so outer it equals mfields begin, and it not equals mfields end. Iterators in C++ are really nice little constructs, which allow you to iterate any collection in exactly the same way. Then I need to, I think I could do that. Or I actually do like this, yes, of course. So I get the field that this thing is pointing to, and then we go edx ++ in the end. We can actually put it here, edx ++. And then we see if we have any other references to the fields. So std set, is that like an associative container? Std set, or is it just a bunch of little items? Maybe I should use std map or something similar to that. Let's see. I think we should use std map instead, because set is not associative, so we should use map with a pair consisting of like a string, and let's do this, map std pair of std string and lib field. This would be something better, I guess. Okay. Which doesn't really give us any benefit, because we still have to, for those mandatory fields, we still have to index them as integers, and actually for all the fields we're actually indexing them by integers, so we don't actually need this. The only place where this helps is when we are inserting a new item into our little collection here. Which I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna change this to, I can still use that edx ++ there, and I can then go to, and when it comes to inserting this field in update fields, we can go, so this is gonna update the field value and rename the component also if the field that's been changed is the value field. The question is, do we end up with the same part? I think so. Although I'm not really sure. Like, if we edit the part and we rename it like this, I think we end up with the same part here. So let's try to change something here, and then go to edit fields and see if we get that there. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that works. So even though we're calling through this chain of calls into the mainframe, we still get the right part back, because then it passes the right part into our control when it gets updated. So here we just need to do like this. Why don't we just use std find? Let's see, std. That's interesting. How can we do that in C++ 11 with a lambda? That would be interesting. Std find vector lambda. Oh, this is interesting. if. What was the syntax of this thing? Begin, end, and then a lambda. So m fields. This is going to return an iterator. M fields begin, M fields end, and then we take the value which you want to capture, and we see, and that would be loop field. Can we get it? We can use a const reference. F return f get name equals. Oh no, wait. We actually need this though, because all of the fields are already going to be there, so we don't actually need to figure out if it's there or not. So when we edit, so when we create a new field, we're actually going to add them. We're already adding them to the fields array, so it's already going to be there. So the only thing we need to do is find the field and set the value. So we can do like this. We just set the field value. So we just set the field value, and then we set the fields on the part, so that we get those. Yes, right. So we set the fields on the part, and then it's going to actually update. I think it's going to update the GUI. We'll see, or maybe we're going to have to call some refresh method that will update the fields in the rest of the components. So set text to value, and then m part set fields, m fields. So here our field is already pointing to the m fields object there. So let's see what this does. It could be that we're not going to see any changes in our fields when we update them from here, but I think we should be okay. So we're interested in updating both the grid and all of the fields in the component itself. Let's see what we did here. What did we do? Our definition. Did I redefine the part ID change? Let's see. We are not interested in part ID change. We're interested in kill focus and let's see. Text enter and kill focus. Oh, I forgot to add the text enter. That explains why I had two copies there. So kill focus. So text enter is going to have the code that we just put in the part ID change method. So let's see. Actually, we're going to delete this and we're going to move it here. Right. Let's see. Did we have any more errors here? Not declared in the scope. Update part field. I think that should compile. No, it didn't. Hem part was not declared in the scope. Really? Oh, pain, not field. Goddamn typo. And then I think we are okay. Properties pane. This is obviously compiling, it's really slow. I have to check if I can use precompiled headers in some way during the build process, but I'm going to do that later. Right now I'm just going to test this functionality and see if it works. So library editor. No. I pressed escape. If I press escape, it closes the application and there is an assertion failure. I have to press continue. Continue. And then we're gonna open a component and we're gonna try to change this field so that works, and when I change focus it changes the field, and then I can also press enter and the same thing does not happen. So the same thing does not happen when I press enter. That's curious. Oh wait, now it worked. So press enter. Press enter. No? Okay, interesting. So on text enter, text control on text enter. On text enter, was that not the name of the event? On text enter. Is there some other thing we could do? Text updated, but I think text updated is actually let's see, I think text updated is called every time you type a character, which is not what we want. Well, we could use the loose focus for now. I think that works. Let's just make sure that we can do other things as well. Can we modify this? That didn't work. So we could not modify the designator. This is really slow. We cannot do that. I think we're gonna have to convert all of this into kill focus. Can we open this? So that's like that. If we put another thing there, we should actually see the field. No, we're not seeing the field. The reference is still the same. Interesting. So we're not updating any fields. I'm gonna actually change the way that the events are being bound here for all of these fields. So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do on designator kill focus as well. On data sheet kill focus. On MPN kill focus. Right, and generate code, and then we're gonna see. Maybe I forgot to generate code. That's actually quite possible that I forgot to generate code. Let's make sure that we have all the right events here. Kill focus. I find it a bit annoying that I have to redo the methods because they take different events, different arguments. On ID kill focus on ID text enter. I'm gonna actually leave that ID text enter. So just in case we forgot to generate code before. Yeah, and this is gonna be like focus event. Comment focus event, comment kill focus, data sheet kill focus. I could actually use the same method for this and then resolve the field based on the name of the control. I'm gonna do it like this for now. Did I do everything? Probably I'm gonna get some errors now because I changed the callbacks. I think I have to notify the mainframe somehow when I do the changes. Probably I have to do the same thing that I did. I mean, that worked with the grid. Probably I need to just add a call to some function to refresh the thing. We'll see. MPN kill focus is not there. Okay. So we need to add the MPN kill focus. Yeah, didn't I add that one? No. So I'm gonna add this one. Part properties pane, and we yank these 3 lines, and we paste them there. No, actually that was 4 lines. So take that one as well. And then we're gonna go npn get field. Yeah, that should work. Now, and then it's gonna be update field value instead, so that we go through the values. So let's see what we're doing when we update the grid. Oh, I didn't enter the code that I needed to enter here. That's why it didn't work, obviously. So let's just do like this. So we're just gonna use the find field instead of get field here. So assert will show the dialog, and then I need to also check that the field is not 0, otherwise I'm gonna seg fault, and I don't want to do that when I press continue. So null ptr. Let's see, and then we also do like this. Assert tells you that you're on a code path with inconsistent data. So you should never like exit in assert. That's not the purpose of assert. Sometimes assert tells you that a segmentation fault is about to happen, but you should usually make sure that you can survive an assert and deal with the problem, but notify the user or send a notification to the developer that something wrong is happening. So, is this gonna work? I wonder if I forgot something. I really have to make sure that this uses precompiled headers. With precompiled headers, I think this thing is gonna compile in like no time. Precompiled headers basically means that you take all of your headers that you're including in every single file and you compile them, and then the compiler automatically just includes those headers as a binary file. So you don't have to compile all the headers every time you have to include them in your application. What is this? Let's see. This is in the control, so probably that's something we don't care about right now. Right, so the comment field is actually not here. Or yes, it is, but it hasn't been set because I didn't add the code to set the field here. Let's see, let's make a test. Did we update the comment? No? Really? So this didn't work. This is not working. Designator. No? No, not working. But if I change it here though, let's see. If I change it in here, I should be able, let's see. I should be able to, yes, that works. So that works, but that doesn't actually update this thing. So that updates the fields. Great. So I have to see what I forgot to do there. I hate the fact that I have to go through the main frame in order to handle the renames correctly. So refresh, and this here we're gonna add a few other things. Text data sheet is gonna be data sheet and text comment is going to be get field comment. Maybe I need to, let's see. So currently mfields is only used in the grid. And now we refresh the grid, and that creates the fields array, the local fields array, which we then edit in the grid. Grid cell changed. I'm still not handling the value change in the grid, so I have to add that. Yeah, I think we need to call this. So we need to notify parent. Yeah. This is becoming quite a bit of spaghetti code. All of this crap has to happen in order for the whole thing to update all the fields. And I'm actually gonna go back here and what happens if let's see, if I update field value, that's gonna update the grid, and then it's gonna like will it call grid cell changed? I wonder if it will. If it will, then we're gonna have a infinite loop. If it won't, then not. I have to come up with like a good way to kind of accommodate all the different ways in which a field can change and to update everything correctly. So I have to notify the parent whenever something changes, and that will update all of the references in the main window. So we set the fields and then we notify parent. And if we update field value, then we refresh the grid. And probably we could also notify parent. And the refresh refreshes all the controls from the part and updates the grid. We refresh the grid. Where do we refresh the grid more than what other place do we refresh the grid? In update field value, right? Right. Let's see what this does. I can probably optimize that notify parent code. All I have to make sure is that it doesn't. All I have to make sure is that it updates the fields and does nothing else that is unnecessary. So I'm just going to add that method here. I forgot to add it. Is that all I had to do? Or not? From construct int. Oh, that should be find field, not get field. Find field. Warning, suggested parentheses. The way to solve that is just to put parentheses around it, or put a double exclamation mark, which will convert it into a boolean, like this, to make it more clear what we mean here. Like that. But I'm not going to recompile that. I'm just going to go here and I'll open the library editor. Oh, god damn it! It's so easy to press escape to close a dialog. I just do it automatically, and that closes the whole application when there is an assertion fault. So press enter there and escape there. Let's see what we can do here now. Now we got all the fields here. That's nice. So if I change this manufacturer part number, what do I get? Do I actually see? No. No, that didn't work. So if I update it here, it doesn't actually work. If I update it here, it actually does work. Yeah. So something is going on here. Something is going on here. So what do we do differently from the? So we call set fields. Right, that's something we do. And we notify the parent. And MPN kill focus, we do update field value. No, this is wrong. Text MPN, obviously. This is what happens when you copy paste code. When you copy paste code, you always get this lots of different crappy errors. I just typed crap there. Text comment. Let's see. Is there anything else here? Comment MPN. Text, yes, obviously here. Text datasheet. And text part ID designator. And that's part ID text enter. Yeah. Update field value. When we use it with the field, if the okay. Let's see. No, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. So I was updating the fields after I set the value. So basically, I was overwriting all the fields. So that was what was happening. And let's see whether this works. It's going to be very slow, but if it works, then we can make it faster. Let's see here. So now if I change this comment, it's the moment of truth. It doesn't work. God damn it. It doesn't work. What am I missing here? Okay, so the component actually got modified. So that part did work, but this part doesn't work. Interesting. So now we didn't even reload the component. So what is going on? What is going on here? Come on. What was that? That was 120. Find field by name and what field could that be? Okay, I'm just gonna do something simple like this. I only use a debugger when I get a segmentation fault. I really don't like breakpoints, and I prefer just a trace. I think a trace is always better. So I use printfs a lot for kind of tracing purposes. I know I could trace with a debugger as well, but that's not my usual way of doing it. Let's see. Maybe this method is not even called. Maybe something else is going on. Maybe there is something with the events that I've bound for the controls. Although I think they're called because the controls, the action takes some time there, so there is a small delay. So comment could do like this. So comment field does not exist in this particular component. So we continue and update field comment. Yeah. But that is not really, let's see. That is not really what we should be doing. So if the field does not exist, then we should add it. This argument that is passed to the field constructor is just an ID. So we just set the ID to the maximum field number there. I'm not really sure if that has any effect anymore, but we'll see. They shouldn't use the IDs at all. Like, they should only refer to all the fields by the key. And then we do like this. This is like a quick and dirty way of setting the fields, and otherwise we update the field if it exists. So we got rid of that. Then it refreshes the grid and notifies the parent, which should work. Let's try with something else. Trace breakpoint trap. What the fuck? So now if I change this comment field, I get the same crap. I'm definitely going to be modifying more of the KiCad source code. It's fun. Let's see. Tools, library editor. So this added the field, but it's not called comment because we didn't set the name of it. So let's go ahead and set the name. So if I add another field, it's gonna add another field because there's no name. It's never gonna find the field. So we have to do like this. And nf set value of obviously set text. This would work. I think that we forgot to add set text here. Yeah. So if we rename the field, yeah, so we get the full text as the old field value. But we're not actually setting the new field value. Okay. The wonders of spaghetti code. Value was not declared because I didn't type new field value. I'm curious if that's going to work for all the fields, just as well as it works for the name. Eventually, I'll get it working. Come on. That's it. It's working. Yay. So now we got our editor working here. That is awesome. That is awesome. So what's left to do here is to optimize the notification from the from this panel to the main dialog, which we are doing in the notify grid or notify parent method. And basically we need to figure out exactly which ones of these we need to call. So like on modify sets the screen to modified. So I'm guessing that that is basically what sets the little asterisk by the modified part, and it stores current part. I wonder what that does. Like that shouldn't be saving it to the to the library. Update part. Interesting. Like, I really would need to go over all of these and make sure, like, see what it actually does, because I don't want to call too many things there. Like, maybe it's enough to just call modified, but we don't really know that. So yeah, and by the way, the tree pane is called here in modify as well. But then we have like update aliases select list, and that does a bunch of other things. I never use aliases. I don't see why you should ever use aliases. They're just confusing. I think that my usual way of organizing the library is that I want to have all my parts like this, and I want to be able to modify them, and then I save the library, and I never modify them when they continue to work. I don't agree with the idea that you place a part in the schematic and then customize it in the schematic, because that is non-reusable, that duplicates a lot of work, so you have to customize the part for every schematic you place it on, and that basically also introduces a lot of errors, because it's very easy to make mistakes when you customize your parts. I think it's much better to customize your part in your component library, your personal component library, and then to use those parts in your schematic. So usually what I do is I basically just, let's open some library that is actually a same library without any aliases. I would just go like copy symbol, and then I would just paste it into my own library. And then I would customize the symbol for my own needs. So here I can just go here and I can, oh, this was actually wrong. This is not supposed to be there. So I'll just go here and customize the part. So that works. A few other improvements to do here would be to automatically hide the name and default to the comment as the field that is visible on the schematic, so that when you place this component on the schematic, you will get the comment field as the visible field. And also to make sure that those new fields, like manufacturer part number, they're not supposed to be visible. Last thing I'm going to do is just make sure that when we load a new part, we don't keep any old data in the dialog. But all of this is just cosmetic stuff. I can just modify the fields here, so I can just go here and set the value to not shown in the schematic. Like if this was a resistor, I would just type like 1K 1% here or something. Let's just pretend that this is a resistor. And MPN should not be visible either. So I'm gonna add that as defaults as well. But then if I do like this and I save this library, and then I would go, I would close the library editor. And now I've configured all my parts, like with manufacturer numbers. I can create bombs out of them, and then I just go to the schematic and I place them here. And this is very nice. Let's see if this works. So, bloop. And there we go. And this, for some reason, actually also sets the name as visible. It shouldn't set the name as visible. I don't want to set the name as visible. This is not supposed to be visible. One thing that is really nice is the function to place the fields automatically, so I can just do that and I press O, and it places them automatically there. So this is not going to be there, and this is not even going to be in the schematic library either. So I'm going to delete it from there. I save the library, and that's it for now. I'll see you later, and then we're going to design this little radio frequency analyzer. Vector analyzer, I guess it will be called. I'm going to do that before the radar project, because I think that it's a nice project to do first, because it's a very useful tool to have in order to analyze the way that waves go through a device, and to be able to plot the Bode diagram of how the signal changes as it goes through a device, like a coupler or an op-amp or any other device that modifies the wave. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'm just gonna go to YouTube, and I'm gonna stop this stream, which I can do also from here.